It's time to down tools for a bit. Welcome to the ToolShed, the influential podcast for anyone and everyone involved in the building industry. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the ToolShed. One of the things that I've been involved in for, I don't really want to say, but it's been many decades, well over 3, is personal development as part of professional development, and how we think and how we manage our emotions and how much we understand of ourselves, the way we make our decisions, which causes us to behave in a certain way and react in a certain way that gives us our results, is something that I'm super interested in, super passionate about. And one of our black belt members, Anthony, who's been on the podcast, said, I know this bloke. And I think you should get this fella onto the podcast because he's absolutely fascinating in his approach to help businesses and people improve their lives and improve their businesses. So with no further ado, I'm welcoming Karim Boktor, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, onto the podcast. We jumped on to have a conversation and your computer decided to go dark, but now we're back. We're back online and we're good. Welcome. How are you going? Where do we find you?
Awesome. Thank you. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. I'm everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, karimboktor.com. Yeah, I'm everywhere.
But right now you're in Melbourne.
Oh, sorry.
That was a question. That's cool. That's cool. As I mentioned, you know, I love this stuff. I've been involved in I guess you could call it performance coaching for 35 years. Had a little bit of a left turn in my life and started working with elite athletes in a couple of different sports, and just love the whole psychology and energy techniques. And Anthony tells me you use hypnosis and all sorts of things. So I'm just really fascinated to learn about your experience and what you do and so forth. So I want to hand it over to you, the talking stick, give you the talking stick. And if you can just give us the background, how did you get into this? Because I find these backstories absolutely fascinating. I would have been voted least likely to do what I'm doing now, but I'm doing it. How did you end up doing what you're doing?
You're spot on the money. My backstory is I was looking for a solution myself.
Yeah.
I had just finished my MBA and I had just finished off from working for a big corporate business. I was in medical devices. So I was in surgery with doctors, coaching them on how to use our surgical products. So I was in there while they were in surgery.
Yeah.
And very high stressful environment. And then I said, you know what, my wife's pregnant. I really want some time for me. I don't want to be in this environment anymore. Let's start a business. And this wouldn't have been my first business. This was probably my second or third, but I was very confident. Here I am. I settled into the new business. It was the same week that my son was born.
Mm-hmm.
It was our first child. So we really didn't really understand what I was in for. There's no manual. I just thought I'd come home after work and my wife would be there, looking after the baby, like rainbows and lollipops, and everything would be okay, all those types of things.
And it wasn't.
No, far from. So my plus to mention, my son also had colic.
Mm.
So I was waking up every 20 to 30 minutes with my wife, trying to figure out what this problem is. And the problem is that I couldn't. He had colic, and we didn't even know what it was. So we done a lot of investigation, and because of that, I was going into work always on the back foot. I was sleep deprived. I couldn't make decisions, and I didn't even know that I was using sleep as a coping mechanism for my anxiety. So I couldn't make decisions like I did before because something was taken away from me, and I was like my business started to spiral down out of control, and I couldn't really understand why. I had just finished my MBA. I had hired the best marketing people. I've, done everything right. Theoretically, on paper, my business should be doing really, really well.
Mm.
And for the life of me, I couldn't put my finger on it. And then it just started getting worse and worse. And one day, my wife found me curled up into a ball, just so anxious, crying, shitting myself, not knowing where the business was going to go.
Mm.
It was to a point where I was worried about paying for rent, paying for wages. And I thought, man, I've put myself and my family in a really worse position than what I started off with. Especially because even this has got a backstory. So my parents escaped persecution from Egypt.
Mm.
So we came here. I came here when I was 2, and we came here with nothing. So Dad was a really big business owner in Egypt. We came here with nothing. The person who was meant to transfer over all his life savings didn't.
Wow.
So we lived in housing commissions for a big chunk of my first childhood, and I saw things that I probably shouldn't have seen, and experienced things that I probably shouldn't have experienced. I was just living with scarcity for a lot of the time.
Mm.
And I did not know that all this had to do with me not being able to operate in my business, because I was using sleep to calm my anxiety as well. And now that was taken away from me. And then my wife found me curled up into a ball, and I said, I really need to figure this thing out. I knew that I didn't want to speak to a psychologist. In the past, I've spoken to counselors and psychologists, and I didn't want to just talk about my feelings. I wanted results, and I wanted them now.
Yeah.
I didn't have time. So I remember I was in my jocks feeling sorry for myself on the couch, and I
Thank you
remember
for that
just turning
picture.
on. Yeah. I remember just turning on my Netflix, and all of a sudden, this Tony Robbins series came up called
Yep.
I'm Not Your Guru.
Yep.
And I'm like, I've heard about this guy, and what's he doing? He's doing some really good things in such little time. How? So I started to look at what he studied, and he studied NLP. So then I went into Google, and I looked up, the best courses in Australia for NLP. And that was the start of my journey.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast. We're always trying to bring you information that's going to make your life as a builder much easier. So give us a thumbs up and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. Interesting. I mean, Julie and myself, my wife, back in the late 90s, went and did Master University with Tony Robbins for 1999 or whatever it was. One of our black belt members is over with him as we speak in Miami, I think. Yep. They're doing a thing over there. So it's pretty powerful. So he's obviously one of your influences. There's probably many if you're anything like me.
Yes.
How did you go from learning this stuff for yourself to then teaching it to others? My suspicion is it might have been something that Tony said, because that's what happened to me. It still rings in my ears. We teach what we most need to learn, and I thought, well, I need to learn this stuff big time. Decided to start teaching it, and that turned into a business. What was your experience?
Pretty much that. So I started learning this not so I can turn it into a business or so I can, make anything out of it. I just wanted to learn for me.
Yep.
And what happened was, slowly but surely, like actually worked quite fast, is that my business started to increase. So my personal life was better, but my business started to increase. How does that work? Like here, I spent $100,000 on my MBA. There's nothing in my MBA to say go here or go there, and I just did this course, and this is helping my business. So as I went on and studying, more people were asking me, because I was a business consultant before as well. More people were asking me, "Hey Karim, I've got this business, or I'm this position. I'm an executive. What do you think? How do you think I should solve this problem?" And initially, I would give them the whole vanilla cliche answer, right? And then I would use whatever I learned in my course with human behavior into that same mix.
Mm.
And people are like, what? I've never really considered that. This
Mm.
is like groundbreaking for me. And it started to work for people. And then I just started doing more and more. And people were like, Karim, you really need to start your own business. So I sold my business and I started this.
Mm.
And I started learning more and more. And then I started to integrate everything that I learned. So I started learning things like hypnotherapy. I was a facilitator of the Dr. John DeMartini method. I started learning all these other different modalities, and I was really caught into a pickle. Now I've got all these tools. What do I do? Because usually someone just is like the NLP person,
Yeah.
or someone is the hypnotherapy person. Someone is that person. And I'm like, I don't want to be stuck with just being that person, especially because I know that they've got their own limitations.
Mm.
So the best thing that I could do is, okay, well, let's pick out all the best things and all the best stuff that I've learned and create my own. And ever since I did that, it was a game changer.
Yeah.
And business just started to grow from there.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that's the Boktor Method. It's
Yes.
on your website. We'll be talking about that in a moment. But something that you said, I think, is absolutely crucial to unpack, because it's something that I find most people don't think about. You didn't think about it, and then you experienced it. And that is that you can have all of the business acumen around. You can have the best marketing. You can have all of these things and think you know about business.
Yes.
But, my little saying that I always repeat to myself is until the business owner is right, the business will never be right. And
Yes.
and I always ask the question, out of the client, the team, or the business owner, who is the most important contributor to the success of, or otherwise, of that business? And most everyone says, well, you've got to, it's all about the customer. They're the most important. And then some other smart person says, well, no, it's really the team. You've got to have a good team. And it's hardly anyone says that you've got to prioritize the skills and the mindset and the energy of the business owner. I think Stephen Covey said, when you're on a plane, who do you want to have had the most attention paid to them as far as training and that is concerned? Is it the cabin crew or is it the pilot? And I think the pilot's probably more important than the cabin crew. They help you with your experience, but he's got his life in your hands. So
Yes.
What are your thoughts about that? And tell me of your experience when you're working with business people. Is it an easy thing or a difficult thing to get them to understand they need to prioritize themselves to improve their business performance?
I love the analogy about the airplane. I use that, like analogy all the time, that for a long time that they feel that they're not even the pilot.
Mm.
Sometimes I use the analogy of the bus, right? Where they are the driver of the bus. And if your windscreen is messy, putting new tires or a faster engine isn't going to help the bus move better. Like, you're going to continue crashing.
Yeah.
So we need to clear this windscreen so you can see better and make better decisions. And only then can you bring more passengers into the bus. And then you've got a really good base. Other than that, you're going to continue crashing. People want to put V8 engines into these bus, turbos and all that kind of thing. And then they wonder why they keep crashing, and they think the whole world is against them. And it's really hard for them to take. And honestly, the reason why I don't work with everyone is because a lot of people don't want to accept and take this really big pill that they need to swallow, that they need to take responsibility of what's happening in their business. And you're totally right. For a long time, people have been searching and been, okay, well, now that, and even if they know that they are the answer, now what? So even with me, okay, so now I'm the answer. What do I do? Okay, I can't just be told, hey, just harden up, or just, don't worry about it, or just do this behavior instead, or don't be angry, don't react, or take, or have some deep breaths. they're all Band-Aids,
Mm.
right? I want the problem gone.
Yeah.
And I want the problem gone now.
Yeah.
So they're looking for that type of this type of solution.
Mm.
They're wanting something quick that gets to the core, and that it's something that they can help rebuild their business with.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're spot on.
What have you got to say about the just to backtrack to a couple of words you said there? It sounded to me a little bit like a big part of the challenge for many business owners is the bright, shiny object. They're looking for the quick fix, the magic bullet. You know, what are the words to fix this problem with this customer? And they prioritize that and think that if I join that platform or have this coach or whatever, that will fix all my problems. But then, and that quite often does work to a certain extent because they're getting some new information, and that makes that it attacks the low hanging fruit. But then after a little while, it requires work, and the effort that you've got to put in goes up, and the gain that you get with that increased effort gets smaller.
Yeah.
What do you say to people to get them to move through that part of the journey? Because it's part of everybody's journey. We all start off, this is fantastic, you know, what Tony told us and what have you, and you get some great, wonderful experiences quite quickly, and then you've got to maintain your disciplines, which is hard work, and the gains you make is smaller, and then you kind of move into the third part of the process where I suppose you're in this thing that we might call wisdom, gaining wisdom after you've had a whole bunch of experience. And in that point, the amount of effort you have to put in is massive and the gains are little. And it's like you're at the Olympic level now. I have to discipline myself so much and follow these processes so much to gain 1/100th of a second, which is the difference between podium and fourth place. You know, what do you say to people when it starts to become work and they need to keep putting more and more effort in for seemingly decreasing results?
Spot on. And I liked what you said at the start around, the shiny object.
Yeah.
Usually, and I like how you said at the start as well, we need to understand what's happening inside of us.
Yeah.
The people that I get, the reason why it hasn't been working is because of what's happening for them subconsciously. They're constantly looking for the shiny object because they're constantly feeling like they need a solution now.
Yeah.
And they're in scattered mode. Like they don't know what to do. They're just trying to do a lot, trying to get a result. And what I found is that the reason why they're doing that is they're in fight or flight. So the subconscious problem that they're running, especially around business owners, is that they have an internal fear. If we don't switch off this internal fear, they're going to continuously look for this solution and they're going to continuously self-sabotage themselves because in their world, there's chaos. There's danger. So they're going to drive and go towards that without them even knowing. Even if there is something that's good that's coming towards them, they're going to perceive that as either too good to be true or that's not good for me or it's too easy. And they're going to self-sabotage it and they're going to ruin it and they're going to go on to the next thing. And they're going to say to themselves, why isn't this working? So I think first and foremost is them understanding how they're feeling when they're making those decisions and making that behavior. What was the second one that you mentioned as well? What was one after that?
Oh, well, I mean, to me, it's like a 3-step process where you sort of maybe the bright shiny object focus gets you started, and you go, I'm going to go join Tony Robbins and go to Master University or something like that. Yeah. And it's all very exciting. You're obviously hitting the low-hanging fruit at that stage, so the amount of effort that you're putting in is small, but the gains are big. And when you continue on that journey, you find out that you've got to work even harder, but the gains you're getting are smaller. And then you get into that third space where you've got to really refine the disciplines that you're implementing to get tiny gains.
What I found is that people within that space are looking just for dopamine. They're looking for that Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Looking for the quick fixes.
Yeah.
And what I found is that the people that are in this space can't be comfortable within their own uncomfortableness. So they're constantly looking for distractions.
Yeah.
So they can't be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like in that space where you're making 1% gains when you've been working like really hard to try and get that, it can be sometimes disheartening. And for you to even play at that level, you really need to be comfortable sitting within your uncomfortableness.
So how do you do that? What conversations do you have? What suggestions do you make to get comfortable?
People don't even know that that's even a thing. People don't even know that that's the reason why they're going to like quick dopamine hits. They're scrolling through, they're going on Tony Robbins because all the lights, all the hoo-ha, they're being motivated, and then the week after it's all the same stuff again. No one's told them. They don't know how to process their emotions. They don't know how to sit within them. So first of all is just really understanding what's actually happening within yourself and what's your self-talk saying to you, all at a subconscious level. Like it doesn't happen, like it may not be obvious. Like it's this uncomfortableness that you're sitting with and you don't like it. And this uncomfortableness that a lot of the entrepreneurs and a lot of business owners don't want to feel is this fear. There's a fear of something, either a fear of success or a fear of failure.
Yep.
And they don't want to feel those emotions because they've been told that they're negative. They've been always told that you must always be happy. So then, of course, they're always going to strive and go for those happiness. They'll buy a new car, they'll buy a new boat, they'll do something stupid, right? Just in the spur of the moment because they're wanting to chase that happiness.
Yeah.
No one's told them that it's okay. You need to self-regulate yourself, and it's okay for you to feel angry or fear, whatever it is that you're feeling. That's step number one. Step number two is understanding where this fear is coming from. So I like to call it connecting the dots. How is this moment that you're feeling now, this fear or / anxiety, they don't even know they've got anxiety, connected to your childhood? And that right there is a really powerful question because they think that their problem is a now problem. They think it's like a this week problem. But their pattern of behavior has been showing up ever since they were 7.
Yeah.
But
just going back to what you said there, they don't even know that they're having anxiety. And that sort of brings me back to another discussion I had with I've got a health coach and he's got lots and lots of clients, but I'm part of this little group and we have these discussions once a month. And a couple of the guys in the discussion were saying, I'm not really stressed because the health coach was talking about how it's almost impossible to lose weight when you're stressed. And he went through the whole biochemistry about that sort of thing. And a couple of the guys sort of just said, yeah, but I'm not stressed. I don't have anything to stress about. And I'm thinking, all of the stuff that you've said about busy, and I was late this morning because of and it turns out that often people are living in stress all of their waking hours, that it's just like this massive crisis that seems like stress. But when it's just normal stress, it feels like I'm not stressed at all. But people are living in stress. Their baseline is stress. Do you notice that? What have you got to say about that?
Yeah. I was talking to someone before and I asked him, how are things? And he's like, yeah, they're fine. I'm like, can you tell me more? And because it always happens, they don't know because it becomes part of their identity.
Yeah.
And because it's part of their identity, why would they think anything else?
Yeah.
Like it's part of the furniture, the racy thoughts,
yeah.
The scatteredness, not being able to focus. It's been part of the whole life. How would they think anything else other than this is just me? This is just my personality. I was 140 kilos. I had weight loss surgery twice and I was still putting on weight. Right? Totally right, 100%. I wasn't addressing what was actually going on inside of me.
Yeah.
it was impossible for me to lose the weight. I even had like really big, like, surgery, and that still wasn't working
Yeah.
because I couldn't understand what was happening inside of me. I was looking for outside things. I constantly thought that outside stuff were the solution. So I was constantly giving away my power to outside things.
Mm.
Well, then I started to learn more about me, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I flicked, it was like, honestly, it was like someone flicked on a switch inside of me, and I could see the mess in the aisles that I had created all over these years. And I could see that it was me. For a long time, I played a victim. I played, but it's not fair. It's this person, or it's the economy, or it's the government, or it's this, or it's that. And I was a total victim.
Yeah. And that's like, as you're saying that, to go back to a whole nother airplane analogy, it's that, you've got to put your oxygen mask on first before you start helping other people. And so there's that part of the thinking that people, I think, find difficult to do. And the other thing is that the problem is out there, An old grandma used to say, whenever you're pointing the finger out there are three pointing back at you.
Yeah.
What conversations do you have? What process do you take people through? Or maybe you don't. Maybe you just have to find people where the penny is dropped and they realise that, hey, if it's to be, it's up to me, and I must be the change. I have to change. If I want my circumstances, if I want my world to change, I have to change. Can you change people, or do you have to wait until they decide?
Yeah, so at the start, earlier in my career, I came out of this, thinking, oh my gosh, I'm like a Superman.
Yeah.
I can save the world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, you want to be saved, and I can save you, and I can help you. And I slowly realized that I was very humbled. That actually the majority of people don't want to be helped. And for a long time, I was working on programs and I was wanting the outcome more than them. And I was getting so frustrated, like, why don't they want this? For a lot of people, they find comfort in this problem.
Yeah.
No matter how many times they complain, right? They're going to complain about it till the cows come home, till they turn blue, but they don't want a solution. And I quickly found that out so now what I do is I ask them, do you want to solve this problem or not? If they don't want to solve this problem, thank you, but why are you complaining? Like, don't complain to me.
Yeah.
So I only bring on people that actually want to change, and they're ready to take responsibility for their own actions. Also, because they're in a different mindset as well. Like,
do you find that they say that in the beginning, though? Like, I want to change it, and I'll do anything, because my suspicion is they still think Karim's going to fix me.
So I make that very clear. People think that because they're coming in to do hypnotherapy, that it's going to be like a silver bullet.
Yeah.
It's going to be like the movies where oh my gosh, my whole life is changed 360. Yeah. I tell them transparently, like, you need to do the work. Hypnotherapy is just a really good and fast way of getting there, but you need to also want this at the same time. It's not easy, but it's easier. So at the start of the session, I just let them know that I don't work with everyone. That you need to take responsibility for how you have got here in your life. And I only take those people on.
Yeah.
Because, I can't want this more than them.
I'm Mick Hawes from Builder's Business Black Belt. There's one roadblock in your business that, when identified and fixed, a whole bunch of other frustrating problems will disappear at the same time. So much time, effort, and money is thrown at problems in an attempt to fix them that often doesn't fix the problem and just leads to more frustration. And if this cycle continues, it increases stress and just makes running your own business an unenjoyable pain in the ass. And it doesn't have to be that way. Being a business owner can give you more time and financial freedom, and it can be super rewarding if you do it right. The key is to find your unique roadblock. which you're often too close to the action to see yourself. How do I know this? I've been working in peak performance and business coaching for over 3 decades, and with builders specifically for over 10 years, and I see it every day. So I encourage you to take the Builder's Success Scorecard right now. The link to take the scorecard is in the description. It's free. It'll take you about 90 seconds, and you'll have some quality feedback in your inbox before you know it. Yeah, 100%. The Boktor Method, what's it made up of? I know that you're involved in understanding and using neuroscience and all sorts of other technologies, but if you can give us a brief overview of what makes up the Boktor Method, why is it different to other things?
So Boktor Method is made up of neuro-linguistic program.
Yep.
So I'm a master practitioner and trainer in that. So that's what Tony Robbins is famous for.
Yep.
But I found holes and gaps and limitations in that.
Mm.
I'm a master trainer in hypnotherapy. So I did that. So that's included. Also timeline therapy.
Yep.
Which is a really cool tool. And also the Dr. DeMartini method. They're all the different modalities that I use.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have different strengths, but they've also got weaknesses. And it was only through practice and elimination that I was able to really form a really good combination between, and it's still evolving as we speak, but
yeah,
I'm really good. I'm getting really good results. And the reason why it makes this different from like all other coaching and everything else, even from, so how it's different from normal hypnotherapy is that normal hypnotherapy, people will study for 2 weeks, right? And they'll call themselves a hypnotherapist. You'll go to them, they'll read a script on a piece of paper,
yeah,
right? And for some people it will work, for some people it won't. And they'll do 1 or 2 sessions and, that's about it. Whereas it's a more of a hard-hitting, more of a deeper approach where we get to the root cause with really great tools. There's no script. It's all customized just to you. And it's a much more powerful approach and more profound experience as well. How it's different from all the other coaching is because I can tell someone, hey, even if they want it, all behavior and all beliefs sit at your subconscious. Everything that you've learned all the way up until today, all your memories, all your beliefs and everything, you don't constantly think about them, right? It's just not something that you do, but they are sitting somewhere in the background and they're playing like apps. And these things play in the background and they create a story about your identity. So no matter how many times I tell someone, if just is normal coach or consulting, which is good for some, is that, hey, I've noticed that your behavior is you're snappy or that you get frustrated quickly. Can you just be mindful of that and please, just stop being a dickhead, basically, right? And it may work within a week or 2, but then they're back to their old behavior. It's because all this sits at the subconscious. And if we don't address it on a deeper level, then it's going to be really hard to address it on a subconscious level. The subconscious is, and this is science, this is backed by science, it's contributing to 80 to 90% of our behavior.
Yeah.
So anyone who's if you haven't done subconscious work ever, you've only been trying to change through your conscious, which is a lot harder. But yeah, that's what makes up the Boktor Method.
Yeah. Fascinating stuff. I'm just looking at the clock on the wall and we've gone way over time, which is generally an indicator that this was a fascinating conversation. You want to be worried when we go under time. So, I could talk about this and listen to you all day about this because to me, it's kind of the fundamental foundation of personal and professional success is putting the focus on you, learning as much about you as you can, and getting into all of these different modalities and technologies and techniques to be able to help you. They're the tools, but you've got to take responsibility for using them. So it's fantastic stuff. We'll have all of your details, the socials and the website for people to be able to reach out to you and have that initial conversation with you to see whether they qualify or not, which would be fantastic. So just appreciate your sharing your wisdom, sharing your knowledge, and sharing your time with us and coming on to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate it, man.
It's fantastic. Thanks very much for joining us. It was a pleasure to meet you. So, folks, that's it for this episode. I find this fascinating. I hope you find it fascinating. And if you are having business challenges, it's not out there. It's in here. And if you've got someone in your corner that can help you understand what's going on and give you pathways and techniques and support and guidance to be able to look at your situation differently, feel differently about it, it can be a really profound thing. Having someone like Karim in your corner would be a wonderful thing. So that's it for this episode. We'll be back with another episode of the ToolShed podcast before you know it. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Mick Horse from Builders Business Black Belt. That is all. I am out. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the ToolShed. If this podcast struck a chord with you, make sure you spread the word by sharing it with your mates in the building industry. We love your help to make the building industry better for everyone involved.